Hello again, and welcome back to another one of my videos. I'm going to start making some shorter videos now that the madness of trying to decipher all the new information out of the Seraphon book has come out. And thankfully, the man reads books. Many of people have gotten even closer with their videos and closer looks, so some clarifications have gone down. And with this new series, I hope to get some ideas out there and maybe even dissuade some of the boo-hooing that I'm seeing online. I mean, the internet's just full of boo-hooing, so it's probably never going to stop, but hey, I'm going to try to do my part. So I'm going to start off this series with, there's some people talking about the broken combos out there, and don't worry, we'll get there. I got some even wacky ideas of my own. But for the very first video, I wanted to talk first more about the humble Saurus warrior and a more balanced form of potentially playing the game, or at least, maybe more thematic. So, to start off with the warrior, everyone's kind of sad about the warrior. The warrior only has one wound. Everyone was hoping he'd go to two. But the big bonus here is that he did get to a 4-up save. Do remember he had a 5-up before, which was just trash, honestly. But now he's at 4-up, and I want to kind of look at this and say, well, look, every Saurus War Scroll, basically, there's a couple that stand very well on their own. The monsters stand on their own, but the vast majority of them are all, you could say, lackluster on the face of them. But they don't exist in a vacuum. The other things around them can get kind of crazy. So when I talk about this also applies to Saurus Guard and Saurus Knights, and really all Saurus units in general, but particularly for our little guys, some of these bonuses are pretty outstanding. So the first one that's on here is the fact that the War Drummer now allows you to reroll charges, and one of our Legion's abilities allows you to get +1. So, and if you're a Starborn, then you can make 8-inch charges. Pretty common, pretty all over the place. You can teleport down, get a big block in there, and you're rerolling your 8-inch charge in. That's not too bad at all. That's not too shabby, particularly for a close combat unit. And built in is also this add 1 to attack. So I'm going to compare this to probably the big scary boy on the block, the Mortek Guard from OCR Bone Reapers. Now, there's a unit that when that book first came out, people, they thought it was good, but no one realized just how powerful that War Scroll was. It's probably even just a bit too powerful, especially when you throw in Petrifix Elite on the table. But this isn't a talk about them, this is a talk about Seraphon. So I only mentioned Mortek Guard because there's actually a lot of similarities between Saurus Warriors and Mortek Guard. They both have one wound, they both move. Saurus are actually just 1 inch faster at 5. Same save, a little bit less bravery unless you're Starborn. But the weapons hit and wound similarly. You just flip these hits and wounds on Mortek Guard. They hit on 3s, wound on 4s, instead of hitting on 4s and wounding on 3s. Their swords for Mortek Guard are -1 Ren, while the spears are not. And another big change is obviously the special weapon that Mortek Guard used, but honestly that thing is so barely slightly better, I won't even really mention it beyond this point. And they do have 2 attacks with their clubs, but keep in mind if you're over 15, now you have 2 attacks just like Guard. In fact, you have more attacks because there's this extra powerful jaw that Saurus Warriors have an ability to get. But you'll say, well, we don't have we don't have the double hits on 6s. We don't have it innately, but we have many options to create it. Scarvets can give Saurus that very same ability. We don't have the ability to make it a 5-up double hit, so that is true. As far as I can tell, I'm going to swing over to the Scarvet very quickly on another page here. And just double check. Okay, yep, it does say unmodified hit roll. Sorry, it took me a second because the 6 was divorced from the word unmodified hit roll by a couple other words in the phrase, so I was a little antsy there for a second, like wait, maybe this is a little bit more powerful, but no, which is fine. Most of the time they double hit on sixes, so you can get up to the same amount of attacks. You can even get to more attacks, and you can even be more accurate because the old blood gives +1 to hit. So now you're hitting on threes, winning on threes. If you are the source-specific Coatl's Claw, just from charging, you can be 3 to hit. You add that on top of that command ability from the old blood. Now you're 2s to hit. Are you a part of, if you're Coatl's Claw, then now you actually have 4 attacks per warrior in a squad of 15 or more, and just 3 attacks per warrior for squads less than that. Yes, it's on the 2 of those are on the jaw attacks. That might not be as scary, but keep in mind in the same setup, you'd actually be hitting on 3s with jaws if you charged and had the buff from an old blood. Don't forget the Sunblood gives easy +1 to wound, which is actually something that Ossiarch Bone Reapers really don't have that many options for. I play them, and while you could be Mortis Praetorian, you could take that special character. Sadly, no one at the moment plays Mortis Praetorians. Petrifex is just too good, which in my opinion is a sad state of the book. I do wish that something could help that situation, but we'll see if that gets FAQ. Going back to, you can easily get Saurus Warriors to be 2 attacks with their weapon, 2s to hit, 2s to wound, at a -1 rend at 1 damage, with 2 attacks with their powerful jaws at 3s to hit, 3s to wound, at 1 damage. If they're part of the Coalesced and their Coatl's Claw, like I've been talking about, their jaws will have rend. So that's and if you're in a big block, you might have a spear, so you may not have rend on the spears. But when you talk about weight of attacks, we've only spent 1 command ability at this point. There might be a Scarvet running around that gives them double hits on 6s. But when you're hitting on 2s, winning on 2s, maybe that's just not necessary. And the biggest benefit something that Ossiarchs cannot do is the Skink Starpriest with his Serpent Staff. Well, if you buff the big Blockosaurus with this, their unmodified wound rolls of a 6 generate a mortal wound on top of the damage they'd already be doing. And like I said earlier, that's already a lot of attacks. You're talking 4 attacks per dude. And all this is on a dude that is 9 points a model. There's 90 for 10 of them. And if you take them in a big block of 40, they all of a sudden jump down from a significant amount of points. Because the last leg isn't 90 points. You pay 90, pay 90, pay 90. And then the last one, you're only paying 50 points for. Pay almost half to get those last 10. And all of this is talking about the most generic, the basic Saurus Warrior. If I talk about the Guard, people kind of boo-hoo the Guard at the moment, but keeping it in context, you're talking about 100 points for 5 dudes, so the model count is half, but the wound count's actually the same, because each Guard is 2 wounds. And they already have a bonus to hit their attacks. They have 2 attacks base. They don't need to worry about having a large unit size to get those extra attacks. They already hit a lot better. They have a rend on them. And if they are, once again, in Coatl's Claw with with the Coalesce bonus, they are 4 attacks each as well. And when they charge in, they'd be hitting on 2s already and hitting on 4s with their powerful jaws. And you could then just easily you could skip out on spending the 2 hit from an old blood and just spend the Sunblood's ability to be hitting on 2s with the charge of pole arms, winning on 2s, -1, 1 damage, and the powerful jaws being 4s to hit, 3s to wound, no rend, 1 damage. Beyond, and then they have basically everything else is the same. The model count is smaller, but this could be more of a strike force or something that'll take down big swaths of things, but not necessarily getting objectives. It's just a killy unit. And once again, that Skink Priest Starpriest ability. I think people really should invest in that Starpriest ability and getting the one weakness of that Starpriest ability is you have to make the Seraphon unit you're targeting wholly within 12 to get that Wound of a 6 causes mortals buff. It's definitely doable, but a smaller unit, a smaller, more elite unit, is much easier to target for sure. And Saurus Guard would definitely be smaller, more elite. And that, I mean, Knights just take this to a whole other level because in Koala's Claw and specifically Coalesce, they actually have 7 attacks per dude, 8 attacks from the leader. And they, once again, will re-roll their charges when they get in. Their spears are actually 2 damage when they charge in. They'll be hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s at a charge if they're Koala's Claw. Everything just gets +1 to hit here. So hitting on 3s with spears, 4s with the Rider Jaws, 2s with the Cold One Jaws, and if you have Sunbloods, you're winning on 2s or 3s, and like I said, 7 attacks a dude. So that's actually 36 attacks from the minimum squad of 5, which is only 100 points. That's a lot of attacks, and that's before even most of the in-game active buffs that you could give them, such as what I've talked about with the additional +1 to hit from an Old Blood. The 6s are double damage. And, you know, it's like, well, what about the other sub-factions like Coalesced, or not Coalesced, the Starborn and Coalesced Thunder Lizards. The Warriors can still be good. I mean, it's just this is where you can kind of take it to the max for the Saurus little guys. But in other armies, you still have the Old Blood to give +1 to hit. You still have this King Starpriest. You still have ways to make 6s do double hits. And I believe, if memory serves, there are ways to get more attacks. I might be wrong, because I can't actually think of one right now. But while they are not fully activated in any other force other than Koala's Claw, I think the little Sauruses are very powerful in other armies. So that's just my 2 cents. My thoughts on the little Saurus. Don't count these guys out, and especially for their points cost, I think they are mighty cheap when you just kind of compare them to, say, the 130-point 10-man mortek Guard Squad, which is 40 points more expensive for the same 10 guys, 10 bodies. You know, that's an investment you can definitely take to the bank and use to buy other things in the army to keep the army powerful. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to put this up and then I'll talk about some wacky idea that I had in a moment. So stay tuned for that. And I'll have some more videos that are more down-to-earth strategy and then some more wacky ones. So hope you enjoyed my video. I'll see you guys next time.